I'm JD Evermore, and you're listening to Chris Gordon, Ramblings of a Hellblazer.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, Hellblazers. This is Chris Gordon, Ramblings of a Hellblazer. How are you all? I hope you're all well. Thank you very much for tuning in once again. This is one of my special interview podcasts for which I feel immensely grateful and lucky to get to do. Today I am interviewing someone who is no stranger to the big or the small screen, with such credits behind his belt as appearing in 12 Years a Slave, Django Unchained, a regular on Rectify, The Walking Dead, Texas Walker Ranger if you're looking right back in the past, as well as playing the Man in Waiting for the Man, which is the final episode of Season 1 of Constantine. Without further ado, my dear friends, I introduce you to you, the one, the only, JD Evermore. Okay, hey JD, how are you?
Hi Chris, doing great.
Great, thanks very much for your time on this. I really appreciate you actually spending the time to come and talk to me and the Hellblazers.
Absolutely. I don't know, I'm probably going to be one of the worst guests you've ever had, though, because I honestly I have not read the comics. Other than being on the show, I know very little about the show itself, so I'm hoping I can at least answer one question.
Yeah, I kind of guessed that from, I remember speaking to you before you said that, so I have actually literally only got one real question on the show itself, because I didn't really want to put you in a position.
That's okay, man.
Most of it's going to be on your career and stuff like that, and just a little bit about yourself, which is what people really want to hear.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so first question I've got is, what made you decide to get into acting?
Oh, wow. It was... I was in the Marine Corps, and I was stationed out in California, and I met some actors in LA, met some people and became friends with. And well, before that, I had taken drama for a semester in high school, I think more or less for an easy credit. And and then the only other time I'd done it was our senior play we were doing. I think it was either the first or second day rehearsals. I got kicked out of the play. A friend of mine went and got a six-pack of beer after school, but before rehearsal started, and the teacher smelled our breath. So I think I'm the only actually graduate of my high school that's now a professional actor, but I was kicked out. We were doing Oklahoma, by the way.
Oh, anyway, okay.
So it was just one of those things. I went to a lot of schools growing up. I moved a lot, different circumstances. I was kind of always the new kid in school a lot. And so I had a tendency to either try to not be a class clown, but to more like a class jester, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if my jokes didn't go over well the first day or two of school, I kind of would just shut down.
All right, okay. At
that school.
Yeah.
I'm more of an introvert. But then I might go to another school, and then my jokes went over well, and then it was, well, all doors are open then. But anyway. So I kind of just always enjoyed making people laugh and entertaining people. And but I kind of, after I graduated high school, I didn't go to college for that. I didn't do well at college at all right at first. I couldn't get up and go to class. Most of the time I was partying too much.
It's fair enough. That's why I didn't get a really good one at uni either, because I was out partying most of the time.
But then after being in the Marine Corps stationed out in L.A., meeting some actors, and I thought, hey, maybe I can give this a shot. And after I got out, I came back home, wound up going back to college to get a degree in theater, and didn't stick around quite long enough. I think I had a semester left, but I took off early to move to L.A. with my ex, and we were offered leads in a play a friend was putting up out there. So we took off, and it's kind of been doing it ever since. It's just one of those things that I was working for my mother when I got out of the Marines as a collection agency, and I really just I was really good at my job, but I think I was pushing a little too hard and maybe bending the rules on what was actually legal to collect means we were going about doing it. It was mostly bad checks, but I really just did not enjoy my job, career, and all I did was hear everybody's problems all day long. And everybody, has, they have times in their lives when they have problems, financial or whatever, usually. Most people, not everybody, but anyway. And so, it's just it's a really tough job. You hear everybody's problems all day long. You just come home and just I don't know, but I wound up taking just a beginning acting class, really, for adults at the local theater,
Uh huh.
like 21, and when I before I went back to college, and it was just like a 6 week class, very basic, beginning acting class, but I really enjoyed it. And so one day decided to go back to college for theater, and then of course I went to my mother's office to tell her. She was trying to pressure me to take over, buy her out of the business, and take
Yeah.
it over. But I go in and say, well, I think I'm going back to college. And she's like, well, that's wonderful. What are you going to major in? And I'm like, theater. Yeah, that goes over well in college in Mississippi. But anyway, so that's what I did, and went back to college for theater and learned as much as I could. It's very intimidating because most people who are the theater majors have been doing theater most of their lives.
Yeah.
They grew up doing plays all through school, and I hadn't done that. I was actually in the Nutcracker in the first grade play. All I remember is I played the prince, and the girl had to kiss me, and I was, mortified about that. And I think that was the last time my parents were ever at a production out together.
Oh God.
It was that first grade play, but but anyway, it's just one of those things that just kind of lined up that way. I kind of stumbled into it, and by chance was in California and thought, after meeting some actor types and thinking, hey, maybe I could do this. And I go back. I worked a year doing the collection thing, and then hated it and went back to college, and then did my thing, and then moved to L.A. and struggled for many, many years after that.
Yeah.
I get the occasional gig here and there, of course, but I did every kind of shit part-time job you can imagine.
Mm-hmm.
My ex, when we moved to LA, she was a staffing person for Kelly Services,
All right. Yeah.
temporary agency. So she sent me on all kinds of crazy jobs, but always kept me working. But
Fair enough. You got to make a
of
living.
course, I haven't had to, I've just pretty much been doing the acting thing for more than a decade now. Not had to have the crap jobs anymore. That was kind of the goal. Get to a point where I didn't have to work shitty jobs anymore.
Well, that's a bit of a bonus, isn't it? You can't go wrong there.
Well, you still kind of do the shitty job every now and then as an actor too, though. So just it's just a different thing. But yeah, what was the question? I don't even remember. Oh, how I got into acting?
Yeah, you just.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, you answered that. You answered the next three as well, which is. So I don't even need to talk about them. That's quite cool.
I'm going to be a little more brief with my answers. Give me a yes or no question.
Oh God, no, seriously. Yeah, talk as much as you like, man.
All right.
It's perfectly fine. Sounds really interesting. I think I mentioned before on my podcast I wanted to get into acting when I was about 15 or 16, and I took up private lessons. I did it in A levels, which is about age 17. In school plays and stuff like that, but my parents they came in and took me out of the school play because my exams were on, and they didn't want me to do anything to do with it. They said it was too much of an unsecure and unsafe career path to follow. I was like, cheers.
Well, you're absolutely right.
Oh yeah, they are. Yeah,
And I'm just glad I didn't have anybody tell me that. I had people, of course, family, they doubted this whole thing and, gave me pressure about it, at least to get a minor in theater and something else and a major, or at least a minor, I don't know. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want to minor in anything else. I don't want to have anything else to fall back on. I just made it that way for myself. But at the same time, I still try to discourage as many people as I can from pursuing this path because it's not. Most people can't stick with it that long. I mean, and take. It's just such a hard career. Anybody that's done it and made it knows. I'm not speaking for some of the overnight success. The kids.
Yeah.
Just shoot to stardom at 21, and I mean, I was never one of those, and I'm glad. I don't think I would have lived through it. Hit stardom at 21, but that's kind of when I first started acting, really. And then it wasn't until I got out to LA when I was 26 or so, and it's taken a long time. But I always felt, for some reason, I felt that my career wasn't going to take off until I was in my 40s, and that's kind of how it's played out.
Cool. That's really cool. I'd say you're right. Some of the guys who've been in the business, like yourself, you've worked hard, you've worked there, you've done, you do your 15, 20-hour days, and it takes a long time and many, many years to get to where you are. Like in any job, really, it takes a while of ploughing and doing everything to get, before you actually reach a certain level or a certain especially in the TV industry because it's so cutthroat from everyone
Yeah.
I've spoken to. Uh,
Yeah.
Obviously, it takes a long time. It's not just something you can walk straight into LA and just go yay and land yourself like a £50 million a year lead
No,
actor.
but there are the exceptions to those rules. Every now and then somebody comes along and really shakes things up, or can really rise up the ladder in their career in a very short time in this business. I mean, it does happen. Uh, I mean, look at Amy Schumer just a few years ago. She was
Yeah,
nobody hardly knew who she was. Now she's one of the most powerful women in Hollywood in in a short time.
yeah,
She's doing great. So there are exceptions to the rule. Just like there's the kid that gets off the bus in Hollywood right off the bat and gets discovered. It does happen. But I mean, you're talking about one in millions of
oh
people
god, yeah,
that might happen. But most people have to work really hard to get there.
yeah,
Kind of what I've been doing. It's like my professor told me in college. If as far as your career goes, you're always heading to the top. Always take your time getting to the top. Because the faster you get there's only one place to go once you get to the top of and that's back down. I mean, you look
yeah.
at some kids that are, actors that become stars when they're 21, 20, early 20s.
Hmm.
I can't tell you how many careers I've seen come and go in the 20 years that I've been steadily working my career, slowly. But, I mean, it just, the faster you get to the top, the faster you're probably going to head back down. So,
Yeah.
I mean, look at someone like Morgan Freeman and these others, that just worked steady and, for many years before they became box office names, really.
Well, yeah, exactly. He was really sort of late before he did come because he was just slogged it out.
And it's one of those things I kept having to, because I mean I've been doing it for so long. I was like, man, am I ever going to make a name for myself? And after 10 years, 15 years, it's like, well, I mean, I'm doing it my own way. I'm trying to look for examples of people that made it in their 40s. Well, there's Joe Pesci and there's others, but then I was like, you know what? We all do it our own way,
Oh god, yeah, you have made a name for yourself. Anyway, it's like this. It's quite a good, huge number of people know who you are. So yeah, I'll congratulate you on that.
Well,
You've got there. You worked there. You've worked hard enough.
thank you.
Yeah, I was going to say one of those youngsters you can talk about is like Macaulay Culkin, isn't he? He was a child star, and look at the state of him now. Where is it? I'm not going to. Oh, sorry, that's defamation.
Yeah.
I'll edit that bit out.
But yeah, so many examples like that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, man, cool. So anyway, you have had a varied and full career. Look at you just look on IMDb and you have to scroll down and down and to see what have you been in. What a few things that popped out. These are where I got my questions from, which appealed to me to ask you about. You've had several appearances way back when on Walker, Texas Ranger. What was it like working with Chuck Norris?
Oh wow, it's funny you asked that. I still run into people that I haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah.
From back where I'm from, and they'll be like, "Oh my goodness, we saw you on Walker Texas Ranger," and I'm like, that was a long time ago. I've done a lot of stuff in the ring at Walker Texas Ranger, but no, it was a great show, and I mean, it was one of it was one of my early credits, and it was a wonderful experience. I kind of got spoiled because they were such wonderful production team that put that show on, and they really treated the actors well and did everything right. Nowadays a lot of shows are a lot lower budget. They're trying to cut corners everywhere they can, and then things get thrown by the wayside. But it was a wonderful experience. I auditioned for the show maybe 7 times over a period of about a year and a half before I finally booked my first gig on there. And then after that, the next 3 I booked, right after, within about the next year or so. And they're all different characters. And that was the other thing. You can't hardly do, people are so attuned to what's going on shows now on the internet and everything else. Mm-hmm. See, back then, I got to play 4 different characters, on 4 different episodes.
Yeah, I saw that.
You can't do that now. You can't play 4 different characters on The Walking Dead. You do. The second character is like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
So you can't do that.
Well, unless you're a zombie, but yeah,
But yeah, it was a lot of fun. And Chuck was amazing. And Yeah, he was something. We did some stunts. This thing where I'm basically holding these these couple of nuns and a women's group hostage in a church
Hmm.
basement. I think this was the first one I did. Yeah, we're escaped convicts on a bus that crashes, and we all kind of go our separate ways. But a team of us are sticking together.
Yeah.
Anyway, holding these women hostage, and Chuck comes in the room, and I've got a gun on him, and he just comes flying in the room doing a flying sidekick, kicks me in the. Then I have to sell it and fly forward and bounce
Yeah.
off the habit and come around. Then he clocks me. But we did that. I don't know, 3 or 4 takes, and he literally he comes flying in the room and
Awesome.
sells this amazing kick into my back, but he just barely touches my back with his foot. But when you see it, it looks
Yeah.
amazing. And he was on up there then in age.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, pretty amazing. He didn't do all of his fight sequences. Obviously, he has the stunt guys, but he still could do that. But why are we going
Hmm.
to waste our star doing these over and over when we can have a stunt guy do it?
Well, yeah, I
And
guess so.
get injured and work. But yeah, he was a pretty cool dude.
Cool.
And be a part of something as cool as Walker Texas Ranger. And that was the other thing. People used to call me Johnny Texas Ranger, Johnny, and for a lot of so my friends for a long time called me Johnny Texas Ranger.
That's pretty cool. So yeah, he was as badass as he everyone
Of
makes out then, yeah.
course, absolutely.
Yeah. I don't think I've seen the internet as many memes in the or pictures across the internet as ones of Chuck Norris and Chuck Norris stories and
No, I can't. I used to watch when Conan O'Brien were doing the thing where they had the lever they would pull, on the show, and they
hmm.
would do a Chuck Norris clip, and I never got to see every episode, obviously, of Conan O'Brien, but I was hoping they were going to show one of our,
Oh
clips.
yeah.
One of the times where he kicks me. Oh, that was the other thing. The last one. Okay, this is crazy. The last one, the last episode I did.
Hmm.
Third to last, one of them. There's this episode where we play this crazy rave-looking guys in costumes and masks, and we're killers, and we've killed this rich family in Dallas and murdered them, videotape them, and then we go and we're holding this other family hostage.
Yeah.
Well, we come upon them during the night, and the mom and dad are in the hot tub, and we kidnap them or whatever, and we show them this video where we're basically 150 million in this account by tomorrow, whatever. But that was one of the most graphic, they said, episodes they had ever done. They after the first initial run, they cut the opening scene where we come in and just bash and batter them in the hot tub, kill them,
Uh-huh.
blood everywhere. And but we had finally worked out the sequence because I took martial arts for some years before when I got into acting, but I never got to throw a single punch or kick at Chuck Norris in any of the 4 episodes. I was just like, at least get to throw one, I was taken down really quick. So this episode, we worked out a knife fight that Chuck. Clarence and I, Gator, were going to have this great knife fight. We worked out the sequence, and then he's going to flip me over and then stab me with the knife, and we come down. It's when they come in the mansion, and they come upon us, and we're like all 4 of us in the mansion and had this couple hostage, and they come blazing in. And
Uh-huh.
so right before we get ready to shoot the scene, Chuck walks into the front door, looks around, and they tell him what we're going to do.
Hmm.
He just says, "No, I think I'm just going to pull out my gun and shoot them." And I'm like, "You got to be kidding me!" I didn't say that. You
Yeah. Oh yeah.
got to be kidding me. And now I'm like, when does Walker Texas Ranger ever just blow everybody away with a gun? But anyway, that's what they did. He winds up coming in and just bam, 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 blows us all away. And,
Oh, gutted.
finally was going to get a fight and then come in and get blown away. So yeah,
Oh, typical.
typical, absolutely.
Oh, that's an awesome story.
But it was a great experience. It was, like I said, one of my earliest TV jobs, and had a lot of fun doing it. And yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Excellent. Again, you've been through. Obviously, I mean, I'll be here all night if I talk about everything I mean, you've been in Prison Break as well. Did you something else when we were filming that? Did you know what a global phenomenon it was, or was that just?
I did. I believe it. It was I want to say it was the second season
Hmm.
that I did, and I'd heard about the show. Obviously, the first season I didn't catch it, but I'd heard about it, And then I actually did not start watching it. This was pre-Netflix.
Yeah.
So I didn't start watching it until the second season that I did. So I started from there. So I missed the whole first season.
Oh, no.
And I still haven't seen the first season. I guess now that I have Netflix, I can go or one of those avenues, I can go do that. But yeah, so I only watched it from second season on, and but yeah, that was another great experience. And plus, I knew a lot of the team. It was a lot of the same crew from Walker, Texas Ranger.
All right, okay.
That season they were shooting in Dallas,
Yeah.
Dallas area. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. Yeah, I didn't know, and the other thing is I didn't know really what all was going on with the show at that point. I just had seen my scripts for those 2 episodes playing the hardware store that gets basically taped up. It's like, I don't know if you remember that sequence. I play the guy in a hardware store that they come get hardware to go dig the money up in season 2 when they get out to Utah.
Right, yeah.
And then I recognize the young kid, obviously, and I whack him with a baseball bat, and then I drag him back, and then when Wentworth Miller comes in, we get in a fight, and then they tie me up and whatever. But yeah, that was an interesting experience though, and that was a really good show. I wish it had gone on. I think there's talk of bringing that back.
Yeah, there is. There's past couple of weeks or month or so they're looking to bring that back, so that'd be pretty cool because that was very clever done show.
I hope that happens.
Yeah, that would be fantastic. They'd have to explain a few things from the end of how things changed around. But yeah, no, it'd be fantastic if they brought that back. Another one I've just I did notice before was you've worked with Tarantino as well. You had a part in Django Unchained.
Yeah, that was amazing. Wow. Yeah, to get to work with Quentin, it all started. Well, I'd met him briefly many years before at a all-night screening he did of some of his favorite movies. He used to do this, and when I lived in Austin, Texas, at the Dolby Theater, and met him briefly there. Yeah. But he didn't remember that. But he remembers everything about anything movie, but he didn't remember that. But yeah, we had to audition to Roosevelt and here in New Orleans, and next thing you know, a couple days later, I get a call, and they're flying me and a few other guys back out to L.A. for another meeting, and doing the Baghead scene. We get back out to L.A., and it's me and Don Johnson. Well, no, I probably shouldn't talk about this, but anyway.
Go on, you're fine.
Well, it's kind of funny. Quentin kind of stole his role from me.
Right.
I really shouldn't talk about this, but it's kind of funny. Originally, I don't know if you know the role that Quentin's doing in the Baghead scene, where he's well, I think we should do this and this and this, and
Bailey, yep.
Well, he plays one of the guys in the Baghead scene, and I'm kind of front and center, and he's off back to the left behind me.
Yeah.
But originally, we had read those scenes together. He had brought a few other actors in that initial audition, and he assigned me that role. And then everybody else is doing the reading kind of the way they were doing their characters. And so before I've read my first line, I'm thinking in my head, all right, I'm going to play him, real dumb and slow talking.
Yeah.
Okay? And so when, pardon me, that's how I did the reading. And well, I think blah blah blah, whatever the lines were, I don't remember. But and so after that scene was over, the audition, he thanked us and we left, and then of course we got the call a couple days later, and they're flying us out to L.A. for another meeting out in L.A. And then we go out there, we get in the room, and it's the casting director, the L.A. casting director, and Don Johnson and Rex Lynn and me and the three other guys that flew out.
Yeah.
Willard and Redfish, Catfish, one of them. But anyway, so now Quentin has reassigned us the roles we're reading, and that's when he gives me the role of OB, and he's reading Robert.
Right.
And so Quentin's sitting, we're sitting on I'm on one corner, and I'm on this one corner, and then Quentin's right to my left there, and then Don Johnson's right past it.
Yeah.
We do this scene, we read it, and it's a great scene. It's a funny scene, Pardon me, to get some water.
Uh-huh.
So anyway, Quentin is reading the role of Robert, and he's doing almost identical reading that I had just done of that character 3 or 4. And after the scene is over, Don Johnson slaps Quentin on the back, says, "God damn it, Quentin, that's hysterical. You got to play that role." And he's like, "Oh, I am." And I'm saying, "You son of a bitch, you just stole the role from me." But I'm like, fuck, it's Quentin Tarantino. What am I going to do?
Exactly, yeah.
I'm going to be in a Quentin Tarantino movie, I'm not going to worry about it. And then, of course, we go down after that meeting, and Rex Lynn says, he's a Texas actor, but been in LA for many years. And he's older actor and a little bit older than me, and we're standing out there, and he's like, "Guys, do you realize how many people there are in this town that would have killed to have been in that room right now?" And that's when it really hit me. It was like, holy crap, man. He said, every A-list actor in town's agent is calling, trying to get anything in this movie.
Yeah.
That's when the depth of what had just happened really hit me. And I'm like, wow, yeah, he just found the 4 of us in New Orleans and flew us out here, and we're going to be in this movie. It's going to be amazing. So, yeah, and then just the process of doing it. It was making the film and working with him. It's just, yeah, I hope I get to do it again.
That would be awesome if you could.
I hope he does more than 10 films, and I hope he hires me for at least one of them before I'm gone from this planet. Sorry, hear me. I'm petting my dog. He's right here between my legs. He's licking. I don't know if you hear the licking and the licking and all that. That's the dog.
Okay, right. Okay, that's that's your story, and you're sticking to it. Oh God, sorry. That must be absolutely fantastic. I mean, Tarantino, one of the best modern directors of all time. That's just absolutely awesome to even.
He's amazing. I mean, we would just sit around talking to him, hearing stories about. He would tell Don Johnson about scenes that Don Johnson had done that Don Johnson didn't even remember doing. In movies, in a TV movie from 1981 or whatever.
Yeah.
Tell every minute detail about it. Anything that he's ever seen on film or television, whatever, he has like photographic memory that he would recall. I didn't even realize he has the same IQ as Stephen Hawking.
Does he? Bloody hell.
Yeah, I didn't even know that until I read that sometime later. But yeah, he's amazing. I mean, I know of no one that knows as much about cinema than Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah.
No one. You can, it's hard to carry on a conversation with him, because I feel like an idiot that knows nothing. I don't even remember my own damn lines from things that I've been in, 10 years ago, whatever, much less every other detail of every little scene of every film I've ever seen.
God, yeah. It must have a hell of a photographic memory.
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. He's definitely someone who is high on my list of people I admire is Tarantino. Some of his, the films, I mean...
By the way, if Quentin Tarantino ever hears this podcast, Quentin, I still thank you immensely to be in your movie, and I don't mind that you stole that role from me. You wrote it. It was your character. They were all your characters anyway. I'm just thankful and blessed to be in your movie.
Cool. If you ever listen to this, I'll probably drop that. Oh, whoa. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, so if I ever actually listen to this podcast, I'll probably just collapse on the floor. No, that'd be awesome. Yeah, no, that's cool. All his films are brilliant. Inglourious Bastards was just fantastic, as were every single one of them. Okay.
Hateful Eight, yeah. A couple of my friends we worked on Django. He hired a couple of friends from New Orleans to work on that. And really looking forward to that. I think what's that, Christmas Day, I believe, or is it before? I can't remember. It's coming up soon.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure on that one. But I know there's a few people I'd still love to get on this podcast. As I'm expanding, and yeah, Tarantino's never going to get there. But maybe a few people, from some of his shows like yourself. I'd love to get what's his name, Til Schweiger on as well. I used to live in Germany, and he was my favourite German actor at the time as well. So, yeah. But cool. Okay, moving on, and obviously there's things like True Detective, and you're a regular on that. But Walking Dead is the next one I really want to bring you on. What was it like filming Walking Dead? How hard is it to film when you've got half the cast, or more of the cast? I'd say 90% of the cast are zombies.
I mean, it was a blast shooting the show, but that's not an easy show to shoot. I mean, there's a lot of walking and carrying things involved. Like when we were, there's just a lot to, and we were shooting over the summer in Georgia, which I'm used to shooting in the hot, humid summers anyway. It seems like
Hmm.
every doing some period piece, doing a Civil War movie or something, wearing wool in the middle of summer in New Orleans. So, but it's nice when you don't have to do one of those in the summer.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was an amazing experience. Again, I was not that familiar with the show, mainly because I originally auditioned for several of the lead roles. I auditioned for Norman Reedus's role as well as Michael Rooker's role.
All right. Okay.
I originally the first audition I auditioned for John Bernthal's role of the deputy.
Oh, you go.
And
Yeah.
so and it's just one of those things. It's hard for me to watch a show that I really wanted, and I really wanted that role, and so when the show came around, I just never watched it.
Yeah.
It's kind of one of those actor things. A lot of actors don't like to watch movies or that they were up for a role and they didn't get. They just don't.
Hmm.
I don't know if it's an ego thing or what, but so I just other than the pilot, I watched the pilot episode when it first aired, and I like it's a great show.
Yeah.
Yeah, but damn them, I'm not. I don't want to watch it anymore. So I never did. So I got hired, as part of the Claimers group in season 4, and so I started watching the show in season 4, through.
Hmm.
And yeah, it's a really good show. It's again, it's not really my kind of show. I hate to break everybody's heart, but I don't watch it regularly. I will every now and then, and I watched Fear the Walking Dead premiere when it came on.
All right. Yeah.
Thought it was pretty good, but yeah, it's just not my kind of show. Sorry, I don't even really watch a lot of horror films, honestly. I don't know. I used to love them when I was a kid, but I'm just I don't know. I like dramas more so and comedies,
Yeah.
really. But I'll work on anything. If you're gonna pay me, you're gonna hire me. I'll work on anything and pretend like I like it. No, I'm kidding. But no, I'm not. But anyway. So yeah, I mean, but it was a great. No, I had a great time working with all those guys. Norman was a sweetheart. I didn't know what Norman Reedus was going to be like. He's gotten a couple roles that I've been up for over the years, and
Right.
and I really didn't. I hadn't seen Boondock Saints at that point, and so I didn't really know what Norman Reedus other than hey, he got a couple few roles from me.
Hmm.
And for some reason, I had this image in my head that he was probably going to be a dick.
Yeah.
Well, you don't know how actors are going to be. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. But you just never know. But I just, for some reason, had in my head that he was going to be like that, and he couldn't be the coolest, most kindest, sweetest human being. I mean, he really is. And I had a great time working with him and everybody on the show, Greg Nicotero, all of them. I mean, it was just an amazing crew. I was just sad that obviously at that point I realized when I'm working on the show what a huge deal this is. I'd never seen that many fans camped out on any show I've done in 20 years, movie or show, really,
Yeah.
as Walking Dead. It was amazing.
Cool.
Well, we came into work one day around 11 o'clock, and there were at least 100 people camped out across the street from
Good
base
God.
down in Griffin, and we weren't shooting anywhere near there. They, shuttled us to the location, and we came back probably at 5 in the afternoon or whenever it was for lunch, and it tripled that many people. We didn't get done shooting till it was a Friday night. We didn't get done till I guess it was about 3 a.m.
Yeah.
And back to base camp, we come pulling up in the people hauler there, and I look and I'm like, holy crap! Look at all the people out there lined up in their chairs, standing, sitting, waving. Wanting an autograph, a picture, whatever. And I was like, it's amazing. I've never seen, of course, at that point, I'm like talking to Greg. It's like, what if my character gets half his face blown off and you think he's dead, but he's not. And so he winds up living and comes back, and for vengeance, but he looks like a freaking zombie. Got his whole lower jaw blown off and his nose blown off. But he comes after him like a sniper, looking for vengeance. And he's like, "Well, I kind of like that, but yeah, that didn't happen." But a lot of people, believe me, when they're getting killed off, they try try to pitch them on a different route.
Oh, I can imagine, yeah.
But anyway, it was just a few episodes, and it was fun while it lasted, and then it was great to be a part of something so amazing and iconic as such as The Walking Dead.
Excellent. You mentioned something in there which was interesting, which I'll divert back to, is you don't know how other actors are going to be and how they are. And I had the pleasure of sitting with Nick Frost. Well, not sitting with him. I was front row, doing a reading. He's got a new book out, so he's doing readings from that and being interviewed last Sunday in a town near me. And one of the things he said they did, because someone was asking if they got any tips that they could give him as a young aspiring actor. Have you got any tips you can give out? So Nick Frost was like, no. Basically, he wasn't being nasty. He just said, he goes, he's one of those guys who just come onto set. He goes, he sits there, and I won't say the same words because it's a podcast. God, who's listening? It's not swear words. He's just like, he goes, he messes about, goes on, action, does his scene, comes up, messes about. He said there's one guy in one of the films who's an older guy, and he was just walking on, and every time he came onto set, and it's no disrespect, but obviously he just said it, just the way it portrayed it was, he came across going, Fala, walking around doing his voice, all his, really booming voices. So I think he just had us in hysterics because he just said the day after, when this guy wasn't filming, all that he and Simon Pegg would do is be walking around going, I'm an actor, I'm acting, because they just said all he was doing was pissing on them, and showing them his, how he was, and they said he was one. And what you said kind of just brought me back to that in the fact that there are a lot of different styles. I say it's just how people act.
A hodgepodge of different styles and different personalities when you come onto a set. It's never the same. You don't know who. I mean, you might be working with this older British actor that's been in millions of things. Remember the Royal Shakespeare Company? You got this young punk kid from Idaho that's lived in Hollywood for a year and took a few classes and he's done nothing. And then you've got everybody in between and the attitude and the personality of the director. I mean, it's crazy. I don't know how stuff gets made. Sorry, pardon my language. Stuff gets made a lot of times, but it happens. But yeah, you never know what to expect of how people are, and it's a great experience when you work on a show, say like Rectify, this series I do on Sundance TV series. It's one of the most amazing experiences because we all get along so well, the whole cast and crew. I mean, it's like one big family. But it's not always like that. I mean, you come into shows a lot of times, and we're also very welcoming of any of the guest stars and the actors that come on each episode as well. But there are some shows that there are just these bigger than life personalities that get involved and inflate with the show, and it makes it really difficult for a lot of the crew and the other, guest stars and actors to, do their best work, I would say, because it's always an uncomfortable environment. And there are shows like that. I don't want to name names and shows, obviously, but it happens, And so it's always very wonderful when you work on a show that is everybody gets along so well, and there's no personalities, the clashing and things like that. But that's just part of the territory. That's it's going to happen many times, I'm sure, in the future with my career. It's one of those things you have to learn to skate around, deal with.
Yeah, I don't think it's like I think it's just like any other sort of business. You always get those, the different mix of personalities, and some who are like that, and some who just just want to get on with things. And
yeah, and honestly, it's one of those things. Like when I was saying that about Norman. I mean, I don't want to name names, but there are times in the past 20 years when I've worked with actors or stars that I just adored and was so excited about working with, and they turned out to be total buttheads. I'll use that word, but then there's others that you've seen in a million things that always play bad guys or just despicable human beings, And then you meet them, sweetest people, they're the most kindest, it's just the opposite of what you would think a lot of times. And so I've had that experience a lot of times. Yeah, and so you never know what to expect. And then there's also personality clashes with the crew and the DP, and then this, that, and the other. I always enjoy watching movies about the film industry and films behind the scenes, things like that. All movies never really do well box office wise,
Cool.
uh,
So, I mean, Rectify is what you're currently on at the moment, isn't it? And that's the one you're. Are you
correct.
Yeah. I've got to apologise. That's still on my to-do list. I haven't seen it yet. Yeah.
It's a wonderful show. I mean, you will. You stick with it and watch it all the way through, and by the end, I think you'll probably have it in if not in your top 5, top 10 shows of all time. Seriously, it's just an amazing show.
Excellent. I am planning to watch it. It's on my list of shows which I've got.
Yeah.
when it's one of these things.
I,
I've got an 8-year-old, and when you
do it, I'm so far behind. I'm just starting Deadwood. That's how far behind.
Oh Christ!
I mean, I've had a Netflix account for 2 years damn near, but I hadn't even used it until recently. But it's just overwhelming. There's so many shows. Well, actually, I'm watching Narcos right now. I started that.
Oh God, yeah.
6th or 7th episode of that right now, which is a great Netflix show if you haven't watched that yet. But as well as Bloodline, if you haven't watched Bloodline, it's really good.
No, that's another 2 that are still on my Netflix to watch list.
Yeah, Sam Shepard, Sissy Spacek, Kyle Chandler from Friday Night Lights, and Ben Mendelsohn, who is amazing. It's a wonderful show. Bloodline, check that one out, and Narcos. I don't know why I'm pitching Netflix shows. I'm not getting any money from this.
I know, yeah.
But,
big neon flashing starlights, Oh, no, that's cool. But I say I would when I finally catch up to Rectify, I'll just be sitting there. I'll be looking at my missus saying I've spoken to him. I've spoken to JD. He's a good guy.
I'm in the first season 6 episodes, and I'm in 3 of the first 6. But then my role gets bigger after the first season. I'm pretty much in every episode after that. But
awesome.
And so there's 3 seasons out there. There's 2 seasons on Netflix right now. The 3rd season will be on Netflix eventually. It's on Amazon and iTunes. But and then we're going in for the 4th season in the spring. And I believe this may be our last season.
Oh, damn.
Not for any other reason than Ray, the creator, wants to have a definitive beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah, closure on it all.
Which would be cool because the whole series, and I think we're going to do 8 episodes. We did 6 the first season, 10 second, 6 the third, and I think we're going to do 8 the fourth. So that'll make it 30 episodes total from beginning to end. So if you wanted to, you could binge the whole show in 24-hour period because they're like 23 minutes. So and some people, I guarantee you, will.
Oh God, yeah. My
It started. They'll binge it. I guarantee there will be some people that will binge it straight through 24 hours.
Yeah, I've got to say, sadly, I've got an 8-year-old lad now. So the days of binge watching TV, I think we went out with 24. It was the last one. I used to sit and watch it for God knows till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning straight because I just could not put it down.
That reminds me, I just binged Breaking Bad for the first time last July, and I felt bad because we'd shot the first 2 seasons of Rectify, and my bosses are the executive producers of Breaking Bad.
Right.
So, I had seen the first, I think, 2 episodes when it first aired, and I thought it's amazing, but I got busy with something or working or, got behind, and so I just never would watch it. And every so often over the years, I'd be watching something, and then the intro to Breaking Bad, the opening scene would come on, and I'd be like, holy crap, what is this? This is amazing. What is this? And then the opening title sequence would play. I'm like, oh, crap. And then because I didn't want to, watch it out of sequence. But I finally sat down and binged the whole show over like 2 weeks in July. And I was watching it madly, like 3, 4 in the morning. But yeah, that was amazing. And then shortly after that, I wound up working with Bryan Cranston. I got a nice little role in this movie, Trumbo, about Dalton Trumbo, who was one of Hollywood 10 that was blacklisted back in the 50s.
Yeah.
And he, anyway, I play a prison guard that kind of gives him a hard time when he gets sent to federal prison for a year.
Right.
But I'm going to leave that as a surprise. I'm not even going to get into that right now. But it was an amazing experience. We'll talk about that maybe down the road after you've seen the movie that comes out. But yeah, I've got a pretty amazing scene with Bryan Cranston, or several of them in this movie. So
Awesome. I'll watch out for that one. Another one on my to do list.
yeah, you got a lot to do.
I know. Yeah. It's sad. I mean, obviously I love my family to bits and wouldn't change them for the world, but they do get in the way of your TV when you're trying to
Yeah,
catch up on stuff.
absolutely. I have
Oh,
nothing but a dog, and I still can't find enough time to watch the TV. But
well, you're in most of that, so you're going out and working on them. That's why.
yeah,
Oh, cool. Right, I'm bringing up to a cult question for the show, which is what brought you here in the first place. Well, I've actually got two now, because I've just remembered another one which was asked to me. So first of all, you played the Man, which was sadly the last episode of season 1 for us. Again, I take it this one's just going back to what we were talking about before about the different cast. Everyone who I've spoken to has said that the atmosphere on that sea set was very different, and there was definitely a big family feel on there. Did you feel that as obviously a guest star coming in as well?
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's really sad to see that show go, and I'm still holding out hope, as are many others, that it'll be brought back in some way. Uh, but yeah, I had a great time working with him, and that was one of the longest shows I've ever worked on because it fell during the Thanksgiving holidays.
Right.
So I was over in Dallas for like 19 days, I think, working on that show. On that
Mhm.
one, we weren't shooting that whole 19, but I was over there.
Yeah.
But and again, I did not know the show before, and what happened was is that my agent sent me the audition, and I looked at it, and I'm just like, I'm not right for this. There's many other actors I think that could play this crazy Cajun voodoo killer kind of character. I just didn't think I was right for it, and honestly, it had a lot of French Cajun dialogue that I just didn't even know how to say, quite frankly. I was like, how did he even say it? But and so I was busy with some other stuff, and I had stuff going on in my life or whatever. I don't know what, I can't remember exactly what, but I turned the audition down.
Mhm.
And then my agent over the weekend, early the next week, calls me and talks me back into it. I was like, just try it. And so then I spent a couple of days looking at it, and then I was like, I can't do it. I just can't do this dialect. I can't do all this. I don't know. And I just like, I'm not right for this role. I don't think so. And so I turned it down again. And then I got an email from the casting director, which she never emailed me before,
Yeah.
basically begging me, will you please just tape for this, audition for it? I'm like, oh, okay. So I go in and put it on tape and send it in. And the next thing you know, I get a call from my agent saying Jackie loved it. The casting director, yes, she loved it. She sent it up to network for approval.
Cool.
And then I'm like, oh, great. Now I'm going to actually have to pull this off. Crap. And so next thing you know, yeah, I did get it and head over there. And then it was another weird thing was when I got over there, I'm like, all right, because this is going to be really creepy. All right, so I'm going to be working with this 13-ish-year-old girl
Yeah.
playing bride, and I'm going to have like several other 13-ish-year-old brides in the bed and all this stuff, And so when I get over there for the fitting, well, the costumer, a lot of times they'll have like a storyboard kind of thing, a dream board or whatever,
Mhm.
where they have different ideas, of the looks of the character, and they
Yeah.
have different pictures they've cut out from magazines or printed on the internet or whatever. Well, one of the pictures that they had up there was a picture of me from a movie I did some years ago called Alabama Moon.
Right.
Bushy beard and long scruffy hair and everything, and I look at her board and I'm like, well, that's me right there. She's like, really? I'm like, yeah. And then I come to find out the girl that was going to be playing my bride, I knew her and her mother, thank goodness, because I'd worked with her brother in Alabama Moon,
Mhm.
Jimmy Bennett. I'd worked with him in Alabama Moon, and that's when we met. And so I was like, I was kind of relieved. So I was like, thank goodness I know her and her mother, so I don't
Yeah.
feel so creepy about this. But I just missed them. They were there for a fitting right before me. But yeah, so I was kind of relieved about that. So that made things a little bit easier. But yeah, it's a really creepy sequence. And then we shot a lot more creepy stuff than actually was on the air. I mean, it didn't make the air, and that's unfortunate. And I think that's NBC
Yeah.
possibly. But yeah, it was a lot and I've had friends and family tell me like you really creeped me out in that show, and
It was very, very creepy.
more creepier stuff that we shot that wasn't even didn't make the cut.
Damn.
But anyway, yeah, that was yeah, they were great, and I was in it, And then that was the other thing is I was excited about doing the show, and then I get over there and it's the 13th episode that we're doing,
Mm-hmm.
and suddenly halfway through shooting the episode, NBC announces that they're cutting the season short at 13 episodes, and then I'm like, well, great. And now it's all on my shoulders if I don't pull this off. And they're saying we haven't canceled the show yet. We just,
Yeah.
And so then I'm, kind of like, well, so if this episode sucks, then this is going to be the nail in the coffin, so to speak. So,
Yeah.
so that was kind of stressful, but then we did the best we could, and I think the episode turned out great.
Oh God, yeah, it's a good one. It's everyone's.
I don't know if it was necessarily the best one to end the show on because nobody anticipated that being the end of the show.
Yeah.
But it was still a good episode, and I'm really proud to be a part of it. And yeah, they were great, and I really do hope they figure out a way to bring it back some way.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, that's obviously what everyone's wishes from this fandom. It was just a very, very well done show, and obviously guests like yourselves came in. That episode it was creepy. It was just like, oh, so yeah, kind of makes you think, yeah, really, yeah, never mind.
You should have seen. One of the mothers got me to go up to the other mothers. They had there were four girls and four mothers, but one of the girls, group of girls and their mothers, I went up to them at one point when we're between scenes, and I've got the hat on and I got my jaw and I'm talking, and I come up and I say, the girls we're having a little sleepover tonight. Y'all want to come over? And the mother freaked out. Yeah, because we're all staying at the same hotel,
Yeah.
But this is before they had seen me as not the. I think this is before they had seen me as me.
Right.
They'd only seen me as. And I just came out to them, yeah, we're gonna have a little sleepover tonight. Our girls coming over tonight. Y'all want to come too? But she got freaked out. But,
I'm not surprised.
yeah. Yeah, so it was a great experience. So again, another great experience. Ask me about some really crappy ones. I don't get into those. Yeah.
Cool. No, that's brilliant. You just echoed. I think everyone seemed to have had a great experience on that show. I'm bringing you to one now, which is Kibo has asked me to ask you. She says hello, as do everybody. She wants to ask about 99 Homes and what was it like working with Ramin, however you pronounce it, as a director.
Yeah, Ramin. Yeah,
Apologies, Ramin.
Ramin is a absolute perfectionist, and sometimes, honestly, it's hard for people to work with people like that.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed my time working on him, and there were some people didn't necessarily, and I'm just being candid and honest. Probably shouldn't be talking about this, but there were some people that found it difficult to work with him.
Right.
Not necessarily actors, but crew-wise.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the style and the way he works, but he's used to doing things on a much lower scale, on a lower budget with a smaller crew, where you can gun and run and do things and then suddenly when you're working on a bigger budget with and all these people standing around and it's different. But that being said, it was an amazing experience, and I only worked I think one day. Yeah, I can't. I do a lot of gigs where I come in and have a big scene in one day. You got actors that come on and they get hired. They have one line, but they're like goon number 2, and they're in every scene and work for 8 weeks. And I come in and work one day, and their residuals are ginormous for their one line, and I have this big scene, and I get, sorry, I'm ranting, but I work one day, and I come in, and yeah, that was a really tough day though. Because Ramin had rewritten the script several times, in the past 2 weeks, and my scenes dialogue would change significantly. But at the same time, I always get the note that says, "Hey, don't be married to this dialogue,"
Yeah.
And then the morning of when I get there early in the morning, he hands me a whole nother thing, scene. It rewritten different
Wow.
than it was, and then basically, and it was many pages, and I just said, Ramin, it's going to be what it's going to be. That's what it's going to be. All right. And he said, and I was all right. And so, but we shot, and we did that scene several takes. The one where not when I actually get evicted, and yeah, someone asked me the other day if it was a character choice for my character to cry in that scene, and I just said, I don't know if it was necessarily a character choice. It was just what I was absolutely feeling in that moment. It was just such an emotional, a moment. And I mean, we did several takes, and I think I only cried in one take, but it was just what I was feeling in that moment, and that was the take I cried in, and then he wound up editing that into the film. And since then, I mean, my friend Tracy, she's the casting director, the regional casting director on that. Right. She texted me yesterday and said I went and saw 99 Homes finally yesterday, and she said you made me cry. And well, it's funny because I finally watched it Monday night and I made me cry. And I mean, I did cry in that scene, and it's weird. But and the sad thing is, I went and saw it Monday night, 7:40 p.m. screening here. I live in Covington, Louisiana, so North Shore of New Orleans. It was playing at one of the cinemas here, the Regal 16, and it's Columbus Day, and I'm sitting there, and I'm the only one in the theater watching this movie. And I'm like, this is such a powerful story that it should be required viewing for every American.
Yeah.
Here I am sitting here on Columbus Day evening watching it by myself. Oh, the irony. It's just, it's one of those weird things. But it is a very powerful, moving film, and I recommend everybody, try to see it. It probably won't be in the box office long. It may only be there for a week or two, but eventually it'll be on video on demand or whatever, and you'll find it. But it's a really moving story. It's real. I mean, this happened to so many people that was, haven't seen this side of it. They just saw the statistics on the news every night, and this and that, unless they were involved in or knew somebody was. They hadn't seen this side of the story, and it's a really good movie. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Yeah, it looks obviously the read up on it and stuff. It looks moving. So I'll have to another one on my list.
Or to do.
Yeah, cool. That actually brings me to the end of for today. I've got no more questions now.
Questions then. I will ramble more.
Let me see. I've got one last one. What would your ideal role be? Do you have an ideal role?
My ideal role would be a role where I just get to sit around in a recliner in some really cushy pajamas in a nice, cool, wonderful environment, and I get paid millions of dollars a week to do it. That's my ideal role. No, that's just
that sounds pretty good.
Leave it with that because I have millions of dollars, but probably never will. But that would be my ideal role.
Fair enough. That sounds like a nice.
On top of it, he's just happens to be in his pajamas most of the time, lounging in his really nice den, making millions of dollars per week doing so. How's that?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, cool. I shall draw that to close then. Have you got anything you'd like to say to the fandom and the fans who are listening and the people who are listening just before we sign out?
Absolutely not.
Nothing. Can't think of.
No, thank you for having me on your show. I really, really enjoyed it. I wish I could have answered more about and discussed more about the comic series Hellblazer and Constantine, but honestly, I don't think I've read a comic book since 1978.
That's not a problem, Don't worry about that.
It was Richie Rich, I think. I don't know why I used to read Richie Rich comics. I guess I'm obsessed with money because I've never had any. But no, that's weird. Huh. And then my answer was just to make millions of dollars. Huh. Hey, I want to play Richie Rich. That's it.
Yeah, there you go.
Answer. I want to play Richie Rich.
There you go. See, that's your life story. That's what you've aimed for since you were little. Oh, brilliant. All right, JD, thank you
Thank-
very much for your time. It's been absolutely fantastic talking to you. And for everyone listening, that was JD Evermore. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey, Hellblazers, how was that? That was absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much to JD for giving his time for me there. Hope you all enjoyed that as much as I did in talking to JD. Thank you very much once again for listening. You can catch me on Spreaker. You can get me downloaded via the Play Store, the Apple App Store, or even on your own podcast app using iTunes. I am published there too. Thanks very much, guys. Thanks very much for listening. Take it easy, and I'll speak to you all soon.